Part 27. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifen Si Wang. Chapter 271. After disconnecting the communication with Angel Ran, the situation of several other high-level angels was similar. They and the angel warriors under their command were dragged to the middle level by the large number of Eternal Ascended machine troops, and were temporarily unable to enter the lower level where Binghua was. Binghua instigated the wings behind him to fly through the transportation track inside Seva's body. If he encountered a transportation platform that was still running, of course he would destroy them all without mercy. There was a loud bang, twisted metal mixed with flying debris, and a transport platform fell to the ground. Immediately afterwards, Binghua fell outside the core layer from the transportation track that she violently broke. As for why Binghua knew that she was outside the core layer, it was because she had been calculating the depth of her penetration from the beginning. The celestial fortress of the Eternal Ascended One is generally spherical in shape. According to the data collected, its diameter is approximately more than 1,600 kilometers and its radius is about 800 kilometers. Binghua has now penetrated to a depth of more than 600 kilometers. To maintain such a huge celestial fortress war demand, its energy supply facilities will definitely not be small. Therefore, Binghua believes that he should be very close to the core of this celestial fortress at this moment. Area. Just when Binghua was thinking about this in his mind, the surrounding walls and ground suddenly opened, and turrets with long barrels rose up, tilting high-energy compressed cannonballs towards Binghua, and followed Binghua's movements. And move the muzzle. The dense barrage almost enveloped the 100-meter range where Binghua was located, and even an army would probably be wiped out. But in reality, there is no army here, only a god-level warrior from the angel civilization. His body is like lightning, walking through the dense barrage, truly explaining what it means to be fast and unbreakable. Binghua was not idle while avoiding the barrage, and kept using the elongated thin sword energy to cut and destroy those turrets. When Binghua landed again, the surroundings were surrounded by the twisted and exploded remains of the fort and the broken base sections flashing with electric sparks. But then the surrounding walls changed again, and a mechanical warrior with a feminine shape and always folded flying wings flew out from behind the rising wall, surrounding Binghua. Binghua looked around and sighed, "I didn't expect there to be so many mechanical warriors here. If I am too indecisive, I'm afraid I will have a big melee with dozens of my puppets next time." Binghua could tell that these mechanical warriors were all half-finished products, because the flying wings behind them were empty, without the various weapons and auxiliary equipment hung by the mechanical warrior who looked similar to himself. Binghua closed his eyes slightly and waited for them to open again. A cold light flashed in his eyes, and the corners of his mouth were raised slightly, revealing an excited smile, and he spoke loudly. "In this case, I will let you unfinished dolls see how far you are from the being you want to imitate." Hundreds of silver feathers appeared from the void and flew like feathers around Binghua. At the same time, the 7-killing king sword in Binghua's hand also separated into 6 handleless silver swords. The next moment, the silver feathers shot out in a ring and turned into streaks of silver light attacking the mechanical warriors. The 6 handleless silver swords suspended on both sides of Binghua also exerted their own functions. The bright light of thunder flashed, and the thunder spread like a dragon and twisted its body crazily, absorbing everything it touched into itself. Within the scope of destruction. Immediately after the gravity field pressed in, the mechanical warrior who had finally survived the first 2 waves of Binghua's attacks was suddenly pressed to the ground from mid-air. What followed them was a ruthless bombardment of flames. The raging hot energy washed away and melted the metal parts on their bodies, leaving only incomplete limbs, making it impossible to continue fighting. After Binghua's 4 waves of large-scale attacks were used, all that was left in the field were the semi-melted remains of the mechanical warriors. The imitation Binghua mechanical warrior army that had just appeared as Seve's last trump card was completely wiped out in less than 2 minutes. Even if Binghua finished all these ultimate moves in one breath, he still felt that his energy reserves and computing power were a little unable to hold on, and he had to slow down for a moment to restore his dark energy storage. After a few minutes, Binghua, who had almost calmed down, continued to move forward. This time, before she could destroy the heavy metal door in front of her, it automatically opened and rose upwards, as if to welcome Binghua's arrival. After passing through the gate, Binghua was attracted by what was above him at first glance. An orange-red sphere burning like a star was wrapped in a golden metal piece. There were several meters or even several strands surrounding it. 10 meters of dense energy transmission lines. Below is an extremely large mechanical facility, which occupies almost all the space except for the microstar above. There are countless light currents surging inside it at extremely fast speeds, like dense veins and blood vessels throughout the interior of a living body. Suddenly a projection appeared, showing a blue face with only facial features but no body. The next moment it spoke, using Binghua's familiar angelic language. "Welcome here, Queen of Angels. I am the leader and consciousness of this celestial fortress. You can call me the Destroyer or Sevis." The surrounding walls gradually lighted up, illuminating the originally dark core area extremely brightly. This also allowed Binghua to see the entirety of Sevis. It is a complex circular creation with countless small wires spreading out. Of course, this should only be the core component of Sevis, because the entire celestial fortress is its body. Binghua raised his sword and pointed at the projection of Sevis, and said loudly, "Are you the mastermind of the Eternal Ascended One? The mastermind behind the invasion of the Angel Nebula? Queen of Angels, first of all, we have no intention of invading the Angel Nebula. The Chaos virus has infected your home. Only absolute and thorough purification can completely eliminate them. To this end, we will help your angel civilization evolve at the life level. You will gain eternal life and an incorruptible metal body." Binghua interrupted directly, "That's nonsense. Don't think that I don't know that you Eternal Ascenders forcibly transformed angel-affiliated civilizations into robots." Binghua started his defense just after he finished talking about serfs. "Queen of Angels, I want to correct some mistakes in your words. We are not transforming the subordinate civilizations of angels, but giving them the opportunity to sublimate their own life levels. They will break free from the limitations of their once fragile bodies and become eternal beings. This is what sublimation means for us, the eternal sublimators. So they just thank us. So Angel King, we should not continue fighting among ourselves, because it is meaningless. You should accept sublimation and join us to purify the chaos virus, a disaster that will destroy the entire ecological environment of the universe." Binghua found it a bit funny. The words of the mastermind of the Eternal Ascended in front of him, Sevis, were just farts. The definitions of life and freedom on both sides were completely different, and they regarded coercion as charity. There was no need to waste any more words. Our ways of thinking are so different that there is nothing to talk about, so goodbye to the mastermind of the Eternal Ascended One. Wish you all a happy new year in advance, and one more update. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 272. Binghua had no patience to continue listening to serves and interrupted him directly. The red light of destruction began to gather on the 7 Killing King sword. "Since this is the Queen of Angels, let's say goodbye. The day when the Angel Nebula Chaos virus rises is when we wait for the purification to come again." Service calmly looked at Binghua, who was gathering a large amount of unknown energy. Because Binghua was not a mechanical life, Service could not use his own computing power to forcefully invade and control it. In addition, the imitation Binghua mechanical warrior it had previously created all were destroyed, so there was no way to stop Binghua's attack. Strictly speaking, Service's combat effectiveness is mainly focused on auxiliary aspects such as long-range strikes, protective capabilities, production and manufacturing, and cracking and optimization technology. Just like the female mechanical warrior who looked similar to herself that Binghua fought with before, her combat power, according to Binghua's estimation, should be above that of ordinary third-generation super warriors. Later, the semi-finished female mechanical warriors almost reached the level of third-generation warriors. The most terrifying thing is that Sevis can mass-produce such mechanical warriors. But now, due to time and other reasons, Sevis was blocked by Binghua before he could complete his mechanical warrior army. At this moment, Wang Jian, who was bombarded by the flames brewed by Binghua, pointed at the core components. Binghua was eager to destroy Sevis and end the casualties of the War Angel as soon as possible, so after completing the enhanced version of the flame bombing, he immediately launched an attack forward. Use the sword blade as your guide and the burning red as your etch. Destruction blooms here, and everything will be burned to the ground. The concentrated red energy was like a giant sword, cutting through the wall of the core area, cutting off the core components of Sevis, and even destroying the metal pieces that clamped the miniature star. And the miniature star that lost the limitations of the device began to expand its size to the surroundings, as if the resentment that had been trapped for a long time finally exploded at this moment. Binghua quickly flew backwards, and silver feathers appeared in front of him to form a thick isolation layer, and he tried his best to output his stance energy to form a shield. The orange-red energy like a stream of light spread, and all the metal in the core area began to melt like a melted candle. In addition, there was excess energy flowing into all parts of Seve's body along the transportation circuit. Under the accumulation, the transportation circuit burst and a violent explosion occurred. Raging seas of fire were rising everywhere, like fireworks in bloom. The Eliminators who were fighting the angels and the mechanical warriors controlled by the purifiers were also affected by this sudden change. The angel smashed away the giant sword struck by the mechanical warrior, whipped his whip leg on his shoulder to get rid of its entanglement, and shouted loudly. The queen succeeded. The mastermind of the Eternal Ascended One has been eliminated by the queen, now crush the remaining enemies in front of you. As soon as Angel Rand said these words, the angel warrior's fighting will, which had been almost worn away by enemies several times his own, began to recover. It was as if he had been weak for a long time and suddenly took the Shiquan Dabu pill. The face behind the visor turned red with excitement because of the news, and the power of wielding the flaming sword was even stronger than before. Of course, this does not mean that the angels have suddenly gained increased combat effectiveness, it is just that their subjective consciousness allows them to exert 100% of their combat effectiveness. Observation from the outside can reveal that the speed of the planetary fortress Sevis is getting slower and slower, and small fire clouds are constantly rising on the surface. Because of its special structure and the fact that most of the main materials are composed of hard alloys, Sevis has not directly fragmentation and disintegration. Binghua, who was in the core area, was directly crushed against the wall by the energy impact of the explosion. The extremely terrifying high temperature passed through the protection of Yin-Yu, burning her exposed fair skin into patches of burnt black. Of burn marks. Binghua could feel the bone-chilling pain radiating from the skin all over her body. She gritted her teeth and persisted without screaming. Because of her divine body, she would not be burned to death by the energy impact. At most, she would be fine with some skin injuries. When Angel Ran and a group of angel warriors launched a counterattack, the outside heavenly blade discovered that the Eternal Ascended One's celestial fortress was paralyzed, and launched a general attack without hesitation. When 10 sky blades carrying more than 500,000 Sky Sword Legion soldiers arrived on the surface of Sevis, everything was a foregone conclusion. The Eternal Ascended Ones no longer had any hope of making a comeback, unless they could leap over a fortress. From a celestial fortress of the level of Weiss to the Angel Nebula. A month later, the wreckage of Sevis had been cleaned up by the angel warriors, and all the movable parts inside were destroyed, leaving only the severely damaged manufacturing facilities and the core area that was mostly melted away. I don't know if it's because of the different paths taken by technology and angels, but the Eternal Ascended Ones are very strong in the application of alloys and mechanical engineering. In particular, the kinetic energy star-penetrating cannon on the Seve celestial fortress can accelerate specially made metal cannonballs to an astonishing degree, penetrating the core of a planet at a very long distance. The scientific research angels under Binghua unearthed several technologies in the ruins of Serve's celestial fortress that are of great reference to today's angel civilization. Among them, what Binghua is most interested in is the ultra-long-range data docking technology. This is also the core technology of the Eternal Ascender, which can realize real-time data docking across galaxies and nebulae. In other words, even if they are separated by several nebulae and large galaxies, it will not hinder the data sharing and communication links of the Eternal Ascended Ones. Because Binghua has always had an idea that the combat effectiveness of super soldiers is limited by computing power, and they have never been able to exert the full power of energy-driven algorithms. Therefore, before the Angel Civil War ended, Binghua came up with the idea of using the large-scale computer on the Skyblade battleship to assist in combat. However, due to the distance and the inability to maintain a stable connection during the battle, the problem has been put on hold. Binghua gave up continuing the research after studying it for a period of time without any clue. Now, after obtaining the remote data docking technology of the Eternal Ascended One, Binghua finally found a way to stably connect the gene engine and Skyblade data. The only thing left is how to extend the sharing distance. But before that, there is another problem that needs to be solved, the problem of the male angels on the Skull Planet. After the war between the Skyfall Galaxy and the Eternal Ascended Ones, Binghua rushed back to the Skull Galaxy secretly. "Kesha, I need you to do me a favor." "Oh. What's the business?" "Binghua, you're willing to ask me, that's very strange." Kesha in the communication screen raised her lips and teased. Among the 4 current female angel queens, Kesha, He11 and Liangbing are all as close as sisters, but she and Binghua are only close friends. Binghua sighed, his expression showing a hint of exhaustion. "Kesha, do you think my policy towards King Skyfall is wrong?" Before Kesha could answer, Binghua continued talking on her own. "I gradually divided the legions under his command and removed his control over the Skull Galaxy, hoping to peacefully complete the final transition from male dominance to female dominance in the angelic civilization. But now even I can feel his restlessness. This time I secretly went to Skull Planet just to ask him face to face whether he was dissatisfied with my policies." You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 273. Kesha looked at the tired-looking Binghua in the projection and felt the same. Strictly speaking, there are only 2 people in charge of the angel civilization now, and that is Kesha herself and Binghua. He11 has been a squatter for 10,000 years. He likes to stay in the research institute of Merlot Heavenly Court, studying this and that. His daily life is extremely fulfilling and he is very busy with other things. Liang Bing, on the other hand, was focused on her space gene, spending all day and night studying how to perfectly combine the space gene and the angel gene. As for the affairs of the Apocalypse Legion under his command, Liang Bing's left-wing guardian angel Yunlan is taking care of everything, and is responsible for various intelligence collection work inside and outside the angel civilization. The Sky-based Legion began to transform into a garrison army, responsible for the defense work of various large-scale projects of the angel civilization, such as Herpolias, Marrow Heaven, and the security of the Sky-based Legion's original experimental base. The redundant angel warriors were half-merged. Join the Skyblade Legion and accept Kesha's command. Kesha has a lot of things to do every day, and she has to mediate the conflicts between various civilizations in the Angel Nebula every day. Some of them are entangled civilizations, which is a headache even for Kesha's political skills. The main reason is that it is not good for Kesha to favor anyone. She must maintain the image of the angel civilization as a just and holy superior. In addition, those civilizations are all affiliated civilizations of angels. This results in Kesha often having to fight in the middle. However, this can only ease the conflicts between the affiliated civilizations, because the angels come forward to mediate, and those civilizations are willing to give the angels face and choose to settle down for a while. However, the mutual hostility between form and consciousness cannot be completely eliminated, and there are some conflicts of interest, so from time to time, civilizations will come to Kesha, the angel queen, to argue about who is right and who is wrong. All of these were just thoughts that flashed through Kesha's mind in an instant. She was waiting for Binghua to tell her what help she needed. When I return to the Skull Star system, I need a being with great deterrence and strength to lead the army to stay on the outskirts of the Skull Star system. Binghua didn't finish his words, but Kesha had automatically added the follow-up, suppress all male angels who resist. This is like the Binghua in Kesha's image. Although she is very tolerant of her compatriots, she does not lack the determination to bring down the harsh winter. Kesha also lost her mood to tease Binghua, and without saying anything else, she happily agreed to Binghua's request. Okay. I will lead a part of the Skyblade Legion to blockade the star field around the Skull Star system. I will not lift the blockade until I receive your message. The fatigue on Binghua's face was hidden deep in his heart, and a smile reappeared on his face. Thank you, Kesha. You are still like a big sister as before. Fortunately, Kesha didn't hear the thoughts that appeared in Binghua's mind, otherwise she would have loudly refuted it, and even denied it in embarrassment. Sister Lan, what should we do? The number of male angels violating the law in Tianyu King City is increasing rapidly. As of today, the sisters have arrested more than 200 male angels. If this continues, we may not be able to maintain order here. Got it? In the law enforcement agency established by the female angels of Tianyu King City, the female archangel responsible for maintaining order in Tianyu King City reported to Angel Lan with a very worried look on her face. Angel Lan, who was sitting on the main seat above, looked solemn. It had been nearly a month since she reported the situation here to the Queen, but until now she had not received any further instructions from the Queen. Seeing the worried expression on the Archangel's face below, Angel Lan could only continue to comfort him. Don't worry, the Queen has solved the war in the Tianyu Galaxy and is now rushing here. According to the time, she should be arriving soon. Now we must work hard to stabilize the situation in Tianyu King City and not allow conflicts to further intensify, causing the things we least want to see happen. Angel Lan said these words with a solemn expression, but the fingers on the armrest of the seat clenched unconsciously. The Archangel below did not rest on this small detail, but nodded in agreement, raised his hand and saluted. Sister Lan, I will try my best to restrain the soldiers under my command and ensure that the conflicts will not be further intensified. Upon hearing this, Angel Lan felt that he had nothing to add, so he raised his hand to indicate to the Archangel that he could leave. Skyfall King City is a giant city located on the planet Skull. The overall style is biased toward future technology, but it also perfectly blends some of the classical aesthetics of the angelic civilization. The architectural forms are mainly high-spire palaces, and there are also some unconventional designs, such as the tilted sword-shaped temple, the trapezoidal building supported by 400-meter pillars, and so on. However, there is one building that is different in style from the surrounding ones, and that is the law enforcement agency established by the female angel in the royal city. The overall appearance is like a sharp blade pointing straight into the sky, dotted with golden lines and decorative blue prismatic crystals. As for the internal style, it inherits the consistent grand style of the Sky Sword Legion. However, in the past, the Order Maintenance Organization was deserted, but now there were a large number of male angels and a small number of female angels gathered in the square in front. What mistake did my brother make? Why did you arrest him? My son was just joking with that female angel, so you locked him up. You just favor female angels. You ignore the rights of our male angels. You ignore the rights of our male angels, and we do not recognize your rule. Among the large number of male and female angels gathered, there were more than a dozen male angels pointing at the female angel warriors standing guard and shouting loudly. Although the female angel on guard did not speak, her face covered by the visor was filled with anger. The reason why these female angels on guard are angry is because in the past, the sisters did their duty to maintain the order and tranquility of the royal city and maintain absolute impartiality, but now they are being pointed at and questioned. Most of the male and female angels present were actually just here to watch the fun, and at the same time, we could clearly see the changes in the living habits of the female angels. One of them is the wearing style, which is no longer the same as the same colorful gauze skirts and dresses, but there are many more complicated and gorgeous clothes. Suddenly, a shouting male angel got excited and rushed towards a female angel standing guard. Seeing this, the female angel on guard reacted quickly. She immediately leveled the spear standing next to her and pointed it at the charging male angel, shouting loudly, "Stop! You have violated the law set by the Skyward Sword Legion against trespassing into law enforcement agencies." Facing the war spear aimed at him, this male angel with a crazy face and fierce eyes was not afraid at all. "Stop it, old man." Even so, the female angel warrior standing guard warned while retreating and distanced herself. "It's too late to stop now. Otherwise, you will be regarded as an enemy of the Heavenly Sword Legion and you will be killed here." Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 274. This male angel with a crazy look on his face, instead of stopping despite the final warning from the female angel on guard, accelerated his speed. "Kill me if you can. Girl." Hearing this, the heavenly sword warriors who came down from the battlefield immediately became excited. In addition, the laws established by the Heavenly Sword Legion already have clauses to deal with this situation, which is to kill on the spot. The flat war spear in his hand thrust forward without any hesitation, directly piercing the chest of the charging male angel. The movement was clean and neat without any hesitation. The male angel who rushed towards him subconsciously raised his hand to push away the thrusting spear. But who knew that the female angel warrior's stab was originally a false move, but it temporarily turned into a sweep, sweeping the male angel to the ground. Then he leaped forward, unfolded his folded wings behind his back, raised the spear in his hand and threw it downwards. With a pop, it penetrated the chest of the fallen male angel and nailed him to the white floor. For a moment, the man could only twist his body in pain, trying to pull out the war spear that pinned him. But before he could grasp the war spear that pierced him, a foot wearing high-heeled metal boots kicked his hand away. In order to prevent irrational male angels from attacking the law enforcement agency set up by Tianjian, the other female angels present immediately pointed their war spears at the male and female angels gathered outside. The originally folded wings of the female angel behind also they spread out and floated in the air one after another, ready for battle. Suddenly the scream of a female angel came out, and the gathered angel civilians quickly retreated to clear the area where the scream came from. In the vacant area, a female angel woman with her blonde hair tied up and the rest of her long hair hanging behind her had a blade protruding from her chest. The bright red color dripped down the tip of the blade and fell to the ground. Next to it, a young angel girl was shouting mother with a look of horror on her face. Seeing that there was an intentional injury accident at the scene, the female angels standing guard did not care to guard against the malicious attacks of the male angels. Immediately, 4 impatient female angel warriors leaped over the angel civilians to check the situation. During the flight, a male angel civilian below suddenly took action and directly pulled an angel warrior down. He secretly took out a silver dagger from behind and stabbed the angel warrior in the heart while hiding his body. Someone shouted, "These female angels are planning to kill us." Everyone, subdue them first. Then, among the many angel civilians who gathered, dozens of male angels suddenly rushed out and began to attack the law enforcement agencies of the Heavenly Sword Legion. In an instant, the situation in the square became chaotic. In the chaos, some male angels with ulterior motives held short blades and attacked from behind while the female angel warriors were trying to maintain order. The commotion in front of the Heavenly Sword Legion law enforcement agency was quickly controlled by the female angel law enforcement team who rushed over, but the result was unacceptable to both the Heavenly Sword Legion soldiers and the civilians of the Skyfall King City. In this short-lived riot, 2 new warriors who had recently joined the Heavenly Sword Legion were killed by a sneak attack from behind with a flame-level weapon, and 5 warriors were injured. 15 male angels were nailed to death with war spears by the female angel warriors standing guard, and more than 100 male angel civilians were arrested for disobeying the laws of the Heavenly Sword Legion in the chaos. What made the civilians of Tianyu King City and the Heavenly Sword Legion the most angry were the many female angels and ordinary male angels who died in the chaos. It seems that there are beings who are deliberately deepening the conflict between male and female angels in the city of Heavenly Meteor King, and are secretly spreading the word that the female angels higher UPS don't care about the lives of male angels at all. The Skyfall King Huayu took the opportunity to mobilize his army to settle in the Skyfall King City. The external reason was to ensure the safety of civilians and prevent the expansion of the conflict. Angel Lan didn't know how to deal with it for a while. Because King Tianyu's reasons were impeccable, she couldn't find any reason to disagree. In desperation, she could only mobilize 10,000 Sky Sword Legion soldiers near the Skull Star system to settle in King Tianyu's city. But as time goes by, the crime rate of male angels gradually increases, and most of them are soldiers under Huayu's command. The female angel's law enforcement team went to her legion to arrest criminals, but they were strongly obstructed by the soldiers under the command of the Skyfall King. The law enforcement angels of the Sky Sword Legion, who had once allowed Tianyun King City to maintain a zero crime rate, were at a loss. As the number of female angels seeking help from the Heavenly Sword Legion's law enforcement agencies gradually increased, one day the female angels law enforcement team finally could not bear this helpless situation and forcibly broke through the blockade of the soldiers under the command of the Skyfall King to arrest the male angels who had committed the crime. At this critical moment, Binghua finally arrived in the Skull Star system and arrived in the city of Heavenly Meteor King. The female angel did not make any announcement about Binghua's arrival, nor did she hide it seriously. It soon reached the ears of Tianyu King Huayu. Huayu, who was sitting on the throne, stood up suddenly and asked the male angel intelligence officer below in an urgent tone. "Is the King of Heavenly Sword here? How many warriors has he brought? Where is she now?" "King, the King of Heavenly Sword just arrived this afternoon. He is now living in the law enforcement agency of the Heavenly Sword Legion in the royal city. He only brought a team of 6 guard angels with him, and did not bring any of his subordinates." Huayu was extremely excited when he heard this. He turned his back to his subordinate who was kneeling below him and ordered, "Is that so? Call the commanders of the various legions here. I have important matters to discuss with them." Binghua sat on the main seat, with 3 guardian angels standing in front of him with swords and pestles standing on his left and right sides. Standing below are her right-wing guardian Angel Lan and the law enforcement archangel of Tianyu King City. Angel Lan stepped forward and explained in detail to Binghua everything that had happened in Tianyun King City during this period. The archangel added some details on the side. Even like her, she could smell the abnormality in the royal city during this period. After hearing this, Binghua didn't show any angry look on his face. He just leaned back slightly and leaned on the main seat behind him, closing his dark eyes. "Inferior means, then I will see how many male angels are willing to follow you into hell." From then on, Binghua quietly observed the development of the situation. He only ordered the soldiers of the Heavenly Sword Legion to prepare for battle and ensure the safety of the female angels in the royal city. If there are any more violations of the law, they will not be escorted back. Kill directly on the spot. With the order from their own queen, the law enforcement angels have become much tougher in style. They will not give face to the male angel legion under the command of King Tianyu at all, and will kill you if they don't talk nonsense. This situation made ordinary male angel civilians fearful of the Heavenly Sword Legion, but it angered the soldiers under Hua Yu's command. Hua Yuel was doing this and secretly adding fuel to the flames, and recruited a large number of civilians in the royal city who were dissatisfied with the rule of the female angel. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 275. Hua Ye stood in front of the two male angels and patted their shoulders, took a step back and said encouragingly, "The tasks assigned to you by this king are very important. As long as you two complete these two tasks, you will become the heroes of our male angels. When the time comes, you who have been honored will be the most famous figures in the angel nebula. Your father will be proud of you, and I will also be proud of you." Hua Ye also knew that there was no practical benefit to relying on words alone, and he could not make his subordinates work for him, so he took out two dazzling silver swords. "In order for you to successfully complete this mission, I will deliver the most sophisticated weapons of the angels to you. As long as you successfully complete the two tasks I delivered, the ownership of these two weapons will belong to your name." The two tall male angel warriors standing in front of Hua Ye, who were originally a little nervous, fell into ecstasy after hearing this. The power of the dark silver weapon is no longer a secret since Sky Blade King Kesha used it to be invincible on the battlefield. Its extremely sharp characteristics are the first choice for leapfrog battles. There is a reason why Hua Ye spent so much money. Hua Yu contacted him not long ago and claimed that he needed his help. After a secret conversation, Hua Ye agreed to Hua Yu's request and gave Hua Yu a small amount of dark silver weapons. As a condition, Hua Ye would also send his men to join Hua Yu's secret operations. Looking at the two subordinates who turned around and left excitedly, Hua Ye's lips curled up slightly. He was in a good mood and walked toward his throne while humming a tuneless ditty. These two subordinates who were sent out to join Hua Yu's secret operation were carefully selected by Hua Ye. They have strong combat effectiveness. They are also one of the few third-generation angels under Hua Ye's command today. As for the first-generation god-level angels, Hua Ye could no longer produce them. They were all lost in the Battle of the Raging Sea and were completely killed by Binghua and Kesha. But Hua Ye was not discouraged. If his subordinates died, he could recruit them again. If he lost his life, he would really have nothing. So Hua Ye did not choose to participate in the operation planned by Hua Yu this time, even if the success rate was more than it was 50%, but there was an angel king with a divine body who volunteered to be his chess piece and active on the chessboard. Hua Ye felt that this feeling was not bad. As the skull planet rotates, the city of the Skyfall King is gradually shrouded in darkness, but the brilliant light makes the city with more than 2 million angels still look magnificent. Binghua sat on the throne-like main seat in the inner hall of the law enforcement agency established by the Legion. On the silver table moved by Angel Lan, there was a steaming white porcelain cup and 2 plates of exquisite snacks. On the left and right sides of Binghua were Angel Shuang, Angel Ming, and other guard angels. As for the right guard Angel Lan, they were off to deal with the affairs of the law enforcement angels. Today, the law enforcement angels captured several male angels while maintaining order, and they are now imprisoned in the angel prison below Binghua's floor. Taking a sip of the tea on his right hand, Binghua put down the book-like information document in his hand and asked suddenly, his voice unusually clear in the excessively silent hall. "Ming, have all the guarding angels withdrawn?" "Queen, everyone has evacuated to the lower level and the rooms around this hall." Angel Ming, who was on Binghua's left, spoke. Hearing this, Binghua nodded slightly and placed the book-style files that contained a large amount of information in his hands on his folded thighs. A touch of alluring white skin penetrated the gap in her skirt. Revealed. "That's good. I hope tonight's guests won't be scared away by our battle." After Binghua finished speaking these words of unknown meaning, he leaned back on the seat and closed his eyes to rest. His cheeks were sunk into the white velvet shawl of his armor, and he stopped studying the book in his hand. After an unknown amount of time, the guardian angels standing like sculptures in the hall heard a faint sound of footsteps coming from outside. "King, I feel something is wrong. Why is there not even a female angel standing guard here?" Hua Yu led a large number of his men to surround the law enforcement agency established by the female angel. Surrounded by many angels, he looked at the gorgeous building like a sword blade in front of him and wondered what he was thinking. Several old angels with gray hair and energetic temperament looked at Hua Yu, who seemed to be hesitating, and quickly urged, "King Tianyu, if you miss the opportunity for King Tianjian to be alone now, I'm afraid we will have to face the wrath of the four angel kings in the future." Hua Yu finally stopped hesitating and decided to make it clear that he wanted to rebel, and ordered to his subordinates, "I understand, I don't need you to remind me, the whole army rushes in. Kill the Heavenly Sword King here." The fully armed male angel soldiers excitedly rushed into the front door after receiving the permission of the king they were loyal to. Among them were more than a dozen warriors whose armors were complex and looked like they were no ordinary angels. The old angels who had originally gathered around the Skyfall King also stepped forward, intending to enter and experience the rumored power of the Sky Sword King. As for Hua Yu himself, after all the elite men under his command entered, he walked in unhurriedly. Hundreds of male angels holding war spears suddenly poured into the hall where Binghua was, but they did not make Binghua open his eyes. Binghua just sat there with his eyes closed and said indifferently, "Do you know what this kind of behavior means? It is a provocation to the current Merlot Heavenly Court. If you put down your weapons now and go back the same way, I can forget about it and only cause trouble for Hua Yu." Just as Binghua finished speaking, a cold snort came from the male angels, and more than a dozen male angels headed by 5 gray-haired old angels came out. "King of Heavenly Sword, you are too self-righteous. Do you think that defeating that weakling Hua Yu can make all us male angels surrender?" The old angel who spoke was wearing a jet-black battle armor, pointed at Binghua with a broad-bladed sword in his hand, and said loudly, "Today we will tell you that this is absolutely impossible. You female angels will always be the vassals of our male angels." Hearing this, Binghua showed no interest in opening his eyes to answer the words, and said coldly, "I have no interest in talking to you outdated old things. Let Hua Yu come over and talk to me. Smelly bitch, the king is not something you can just see if you want." A male angel who had obviously never seen the world was very dissatisfied with the insult of Tianyu King Hua Yu when he heard Binghua's words. He rushed out of the male angel array and seemed to have a live duel with Binghua. An old angel wanted to give a warning, but was stopped by his companions. "Let him test the strength of the Heavenly Sword King, and be ready to attack. We will attack together later." After hearing this, the old angel's tense muscles relaxed, and he stood there happily seeing an angel coming forward. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 276. After the male angel with short blonde hair rushed out of the array of male angels, he fanned his angel wings, raised his broad-bladed sword, and pounced on Binghua on the main seat as quickly as possible. He was not stupid. The reason why he was the first to rush out was to show it to other colleagues present. He hoped to use it as capital to gain Hua Yu's appreciation afterwards. In his opinion, no matter how powerful the Sky Sword King is, it is impossible to kill him instantly. As long as he can hold on for a while, his goal will be achieved. Those colleagues who asked for help cannot possibly watch him die under the enemy's sword. The reality was this. Before the male angel could get close to Binghua, the angel spirit with the lowest presence among the 6 guarding angels directly stopped his attack. If you want to challenge the queen, you have to pass me first. Enter the guardian angel spirit Ginseng. After speaking, Angel Ling Ai used his flaming sword to directly knock back the broad-bladed sword in the male angel's hand, and kicked him back several meters with a sharp forward kick. This male angel felt very embarrassed that he was so easily repelled by an unknown female angel next to the king of heavenly sword. After uttering a curse word, the male angel planned to kill the angel blocking the way first. The spirit is speaking. The next moment, the fierce collision of clanking weapons sounded, and a hazy white light appeared around the angel spirit, giving the angels present an illusion. When they quickly changed their bodies, a series of after-images would appear behind them, which could dazzle the eyes. A minute later, the male angel who was fighting with the angel spirit showed a flaw and was firmly caught by the angel spirit. The sword blade in angel spirit's hand lit up with a burning red light, drawing crisscross sword lights in the air and slashing forward. The male angel was caught by the angel spirit because of his flaw, and he was reluctant to defend himself. The broad-edged sword in his hand seemed likely to be released at any time. After blocking several swords, the male angel could no longer maintain such a high-intensity block, and the broad-bladed sword in his hand was deflected by one blow. Angel Spirit's blue eyes glowed with cold light, and he cut his opponent's chest with the flaming sword without any mercy. As an angel who can participate in this operation, the male angel is not a weakling. Seeing the fatal threat looming over him, he did not hesitate, risked weakness and death, and started a dark energy rampage. In an instant, a faint dark orange shimmer appeared all over his body, faint veins bulged on his forehead, and he punched the flaming sword that was thrust towards him. The angel spirit's lips were pursed, and the corners of her mouth were slightly raised. The flaming sword thrust out suddenly drew back. It turned out to be a feint. The real killing move was revealed at this moment. It was an unknown move on the other hand. A silver short blade that was carried out from time to time. Seeing this, a group of male angels outside the field flew out without caring about anything else, preparing to rescue and preserve their own strength. But the other guardian angels around Binghua were not stupid either, and they took action almost at the same time. A harsh metallic buzz came out, and a ring of air waves spread out, shaking the entire hall as if it were shaking. The male angel who came to rescue was repelled by Angel Cloud and Angel Yun, allowing Angel Spirit to successfully complete the kill. The broken blade slashed across her opponent's neck, and then the Angel Spirit took advantage of it to cover its injured neck and pierced his heart with a flaming sword from behind. The dark energy boiling in the male angel's body dissipated, and he fell forward and fell to the ground, losing his fighting power. He was almost dead on the spot. Seeing this, all the angels present, both young and older, looked at each other and already made a decision in their hearts. Everyone, come together and kill the heavenly Sword King first. Almost as soon as the words fell, hundreds of angels who poured into the hall rushed in Binghua's direction. Keep the queen safe. Angel Ming and Angel Shuang raised the flaming swords in their hands and said in unison, spread their wings and flew up to face the male angels who were rushing towards them. 6 guardian angels attacked and stopped several old angels, while the rest crossed the battlefield of guardian angels and continued towards Binghua. Suddenly, a large number of female angel warriors who had been hiding here rushed out of the 2 archtop doors on both sides of the hall, and they fought fiercely with the male angels who rushed towards Binghua. While fierce battles were taking place among the female angel law enforcement agencies, the city of the fallen king also became chaotic. A large number of male angels walked out of their homes, received the weapons and armor distributed by the fallen king, and joined the rebellion. During this period, the Heavenly Sword Legion has been arresting our neighbors, relatives, and friends everywhere, and is also secretly oppressing us on behalf of those female angels, destroying our dignity. In order to prevent this kind of thing from happening to us in the future, King Tianyu decided to resist the cruel rule of female angels and fight for us the status and rights that male angels had lost. Since ancient times, the angel nebula has belonged to us male angels, and we should have the final say. Female angels are only worthy of being our vassals. Driven by various propaganda to smear the order of female angels, and driven by male angels' inner dissatisfaction with the status quo, more and more male angels are joining the Skyfall King's rebel team. Ordinary female angels can only hide in the area guarded by the Heavenly Sword Legion soldiers, praying that the Heavenly Sword King can suppress the rebellion of the male angels and restore order in the city of Heavenly Sword King. For a time, the number of rebellious male angels increased in a straight line, and soon reached 1 million, almost surpassing half of the current residents of the city of the fallen king. Of course, some of them were the legions under the command of the fallen king. The shortcomings of the angel civilization's transformation into super warriors are now revealed. As long as the male angel civilians have weapons in their hands, except for psychological problems, they have almost all the requirements of a warrior. Without strict training and superior control, they were like a mob, destroying everything in front of them. Even if a male angel with the same status as themselves blocked their way, they would still show no mercy. They frantically unleashed the destructive desires in their hearts and became slaves to their own desires, without any trace of the divine appearance in the eyes of the angels in the accompanying text. The old angel Kunming, who had been discouraging Tianyu Wanghuayu from starting a rebellion, looked at the city in the sea of fire and closed his eyes sadly. The king he was loyal to was swallowed up by his own desires. Huaye, the former king of angels, added a fire to it, making it burn blazingly. Now this flame called ambition has swallowed the royal city into its belly, turning it into its own burning fuel. Although the old angel Kunming was sentimental, he would not sit still and wait for death. He turned around and went to the depths of the palace to activate the barriers and shielding equipment of Tianyun King City to prevent the spread of all news and buy time for his king. Boom! A deafening roar came from the law enforcement agency, and red cracks appeared on the white walls, and then exploded into scattered fragments. Huayu grabbed the cloak behind him and lifted it up, acting as a shield to block the flying debris and burning embers. When Huayu put down the cloak he had lifted, he looked through the wall with a hole of more than 10 meters, and saw sitting on the main seat at the end, with his legs folded together, and a heavy book sitting on it. Binghua with soothing eyes. Regarding the plot, I just want to say that the general trend will not change, but the details will definitely change. Otherwise, what I write will not be a fan. You can just read the official background, and there is no need to continue reading this book. In addition, the protagonist is single. I have said it many times, and some book friends are commenting and asking this question. I am helpless, okay. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 277. In front of Binghua, 6 guarding angels holding flaming swords protected the area where Binghua was. Among them, the red color on the flaming sword in Angel Ming's hand was slowly dimming. The flaming bombardment just now was obviously caused by her. The more than 80 law enforcement angel warriors on the side pointed their spears forward, with solemn expressions on their faces behind their helmets and visors. Because the flame bombardment released by Angel Ming was sudden, many male angel warriors were affected, resulting in a small vacuum in the queue, but it was filled in the blink of an eye. At this moment, Binghua, who was sitting in the main seat of the hall, opened his eyes, stood up, and walked down the steps of the high platform step by step. He passed through the passage left by the guardian angel and came to a group of people. Female angel in front. To be honest, your behavior makes me very sad. I think I am not harsh on you. Binghua held the book in his left hand, and raised his fair right hand in the direction of the male angels, as if to invite them, but his expression was slightly sad. Binghua felt really uncomfortable at the moment. It didn't mean that she was too soft-hearted or too kind, but it was just that Tianyu King Huayu was the first angel king to surrender to her, which was of extraordinary significance. But now the Meteor King has launched a rebellion. According to the secret information Binghua collected just now while sitting there, the number of rioting male angels in the Meteor King city now exceeds 1 million, and the number is still rising. It's not like Binghua did nothing during his time in the law enforcement agency. Some time ago, Angel Land transferred the garrison troops stationed outside the Skull Star system into the city of Skyfall King. Taking advantage of the intensified conflict between male and female angels, Binghua dispatched them all and centralized protection of most of the female angels in the royal city. As for the remaining small number of female angels, they were all the wives and daughters of high-ranking male angels. Binghua felt that they did not need the protection of his soldiers. The young male angels on the opposite side couldn't move their eyes away when they saw Binghua like this. Only the old angel was still relatively sober and was not tempted by Binghua's appearance at this moment. An old angel shouted loudly, causing some of the young male angels who looked straight at him to come back to their senses, with a hint of shame in their hearts. As Binghua came to the front of his subordinates, Hua Yu finally stopped watching the situation and walked out surrounded by a group of male angels and spoke. "King of Heavenly Sword, you are the most powerful and beautiful female angel I have ever seen. I don't feel humiliated by surrendering to you. However, Angel Nebula has always had male supremacy over female power since ancient times. In the past, it was Huaya who was too incompetent and was driven off the throne by you and Kesha. I think I am no weaker than Huaya, and with the help of so many older generation angels and the response of the majority of male angels, Angel Nebula will still be the world of our male angels in the future." Hua Yu's words were well founded. If Binghua were not one of the highest leaders of female angels today, he would be a little worried about the consequences of the rebellion of male angels. But now Binghua just felt like laughing, and couldn't help but lower her head and cover her mouth to laugh. Hua Yu, who had just made some bold statements in public, felt a little embarrassed. He didn't expect Binghua to be so uncooperative. After a while, Binghua finally stopped laughing and apologized without any sincerity. "Thank you for making me happy for a while. To be honest, the Wang you follow is quite naive." Hua Yu couldn't help but frown and said, "What do you mean?" Binghua put down the hand covering his mouth, stood up straight again, and his face returned to its normal appearance. "I thought you were determined to rebel because you had clearly seen the current situation in Angel Nebula and made a detailed plan. I didn't expect that I was overthinking it." After Binghua finished speaking, he pointed a finger at the sky and said, "Hua Yu, because of your innocence, I firmly believe in one thing. I should really learn from Kesha, impose the strictest management measures on you, disperse you and expel you to the border of the Angel Nebula, and fend for yourself. But before that, you and your subordinates have to pay the price for the rebellion you started." Hearing this, Hua Yu couldn't help but retort, "King Tianjian, you are still arrogant until now. With such a small force, how can you defeat the millions of legions under my command? Aren't you looking at the sky?" Facing Hua Yu's rebuttal, Binghua just said such a sentence lightly and moved his finger pointing to the sky. Hua Yu and the male angels around him looked up at the sky in confusion upon hearing this, and their pupils shrank sharply. I don't know when 8 Skyblade warships have been suspended in the sky above the royal city. Because it happened to be night, the shadow of their huge hulls was not reflected on the ground. Suddenly, a secret communication from a confidant came through, and Hua Yu answered the communication while still looking up at the sky. "King, it's not good." Suddenly, 8 Heavenly Blade battleships belonging to Heavenly Blade King Kesha jumped above the royal city. And before his confidant could finish telling the news, Hua Yu interrupted him. "You don't need to go on, I've already seen it." In the Skyblade King's exclusive Skyblade battleship on the outskirts of the Skull Star system, Keisha was twisting her blonde hair hanging down on her chest with her fingers. At this time, the angel Alan came in from outside and saluted Kesha, who was sitting on the throne, and reported, "Queen, our Skyblade battleship has reached the designated position. What should we do next?" Kesha's fingers twirling the blonde hair on her chest kept moving, and an ethereal and indifferent voice reached Elan's ears below. "Just open fire. Hasn't the King of Heavenly Sword already marked the location of her and his subordinates? Would the Queen's behavior be too harmful to innocent people?" Angel Elan was a little unbearable. Kesha's eyes moved from the blonde hair on her fingertips to the body of her left guard after hearing this. "Alan, they were already our enemies when they started the rebellion. As for hurting innocent people, you don't have to worry. None of those male angels are innocent. Even the angels who did not participate in the riot, deep down in their hearts, hope that the impact of this riot will become greater and greater until they can ride on our female angels again and dominate. So Elan, go and pass on this king's order and let those rioting male angels know that although we female angels love peace, we can also bring down the harsh winter, so let them fall into the legendary hell with regret." Under Kesha's gaze, Elan, who lowered his head, finally said yes and turned away to convey the order from his queen. It wasn't until she watched her left-wing guard leave that Kesha turned her gaze to the blonde hair on her fingertips again, and murmured to herself at a volume that only she could hear. "I hope that after this incident, you will understand that only absolute power and power can prevent the male angel from having the idea of betraying you." Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 278. The Skyblade battleship suspended above the royal city suddenly launched a large-scale fire bombardment towards the royal city below. Dense spears of light shot out, like plowing the ground, advancing bit by bit into the bombing range. Hundreds of meters of tall buildings were blown apart in an instant, and the male angel who was spreading riots everywhere suffered the cruelest blow. They had not received any war training. Although they had the combat effectiveness of angel soldiers, they extremely lacked the ability to adapt to the battlefield. They suffered heavy casualties in the bombing of the Spear of Light, the secondary artillery of the Skyblade. Each spear of light hitting the ground of the royal city can create a huge crater of more than 10 meters. The high heat generated in the center of the explosion is enough to instantly destroy the body of the second generation, that is, the angel warrior of the lower level. The shock wave generated by the explosion seriously injured some male angels who were unlucky enough to be relatively close to the explosion point. For a while, there were endless sounds of crying, cursing, and screams, and some male angels and soldiers under Huayu spread their wings, climbed up and rushed towards the Skyblade located high in the sky. The Heavenly Sword Legion is located in the law enforcement agency of the royal city. Huayu listened to the continuous roaring in his ears, felt the continuous shaking of the ground, and felt that all the strength in his body was quickly disappearing. The ambition that I had in my heart was now only the confusion of what to do next. Some old angels looked at Tianyun Wang Huayu, who became distracted, shook their heads secretly and said in their hearts, "Idiot." Kabo, who had a high reputation among the old angels and had invited Binghua's father Yujil, broke the silence at the scene and shouted loudly, "Kill the Heavenly Sword King first, otherwise we will face her and the Heavenly Blade King at the same time when they meet up." Huayu also suddenly woke up from her confusion, suppressing the desire to escape in her heart, and echoed, "Yes, yes. Come on. Kill the Heavenly Sword King for me." The old angel and a group of young high-level male angel warriors didn't think so much, and they all rushed towards the opposite side of the female angel. Binghua's expression turned cold when he saw this, and silver feathers emerged from the wormhole, spinning around his raised right forearm. As his palm flicked forward, they scattered like flying knives. Silver Feather flew extremely fast and was in front of a group of male angels in an instant. The old angels, who knew that Nsuyin's weapon was powerful, quickly avoided it, which was a pain to the other angel warriors following them. The next moment, the sounds of sharp blades piercing flesh were heard one after another, and a dozen male angel soldiers who were unable to dodge half-knelt on the ground, holding their bleeding chests. Binghua lightly jumped back to avoid the sword blade in the flying old angel's hand, and then a subtle blue arc appeared around him, disappearing in an instant and appearing among a group of male angels more than 10 meters away. With the ice as the center, the silver feathers bloomed like blooming flowers, harvesting the lives of a large number of ordinary male angel soldiers around them. Among the blood flowers floating in the air are the indifferent Binghua and his armor that is not stained by blood. And even now, Binghua still holds the heavy book in his left hand. A group of old angels quickly flapped their wings and flew towards Binghua, and at the same time they were surprised in their hearts. What a fast speed! Binghua stood there as if he had no idea that 5 old angels who wanted to kill him were rushing toward him in mid-air behind him. His eyes glanced left and right to find Huayu. But until he scanned the many warring male and female angels in the hall, Binghua could not find any trace of Huayu. The old angels who were flying towards Binghua suddenly heard the sound of a sharp weapon cutting through the air behind them. They were startled and quickly stopped attacking and hid aside. Binghua also turned around at this moment, her right hand surrounded by delicate pieces of silver feathers, and following her movements, she shot towards the hiding old angels. In the critical situation, these old angels shouted loudly, and at the cost of being unable to use dark energy and a small degree of weakness for a period of time, they exchanged the power to overload their own genetic engines, and dark orange energy particles emerged all over their bodies, like the body. When it shines, it is brilliant. Dark energy is running rampant. There is something. But it's useless. Binghua was a little surprised when she saw this. She had not seen this state on a male angel for hundreds of years, but then she figured out that this ability is only available to angels who are familiar enough with their own angel gene engines and bodies. Dare to use it, otherwise it will be easy to kill yourself on the battlefield. These old angels are obviously people who have experienced hundreds of battles, and it is normal for them to go berserk with dark energy. In addition, it will be very difficult for them if they are the same generation of divine bodies as themselves, but they are only 3 generations and cannot hinder themselves. Of the last 5 old angels, 4 of them avoided Binghua's Yunya shot. One of them was shot into a sieve by the extremely sharp dark silver weapon Yunya because there was not enough space in the hall to dodge. Binghua then used her extreme speed to fly the kites of these old angels, and at the same time took action against the ordinary male angels around her. Wherever she went, the male angel soldiers fell in large numbers. The male angel soldiers outside kept rushing in, and the ice flowers inside were killing one after another, which truly illustrates that sometimes quantity may not be useful. While listening to the report from his subordinates, Huayu rushed towards his palace through the smoke rising from the royal city. At this moment, the sky blade in the sky has completed a devastating blow to 1/3 of the royal city, causing countless casualties, but there is still no intention to stop the bombing. A small number of male angels ran to the safe area where Binghua's soldiers were stationed, willing to become prisoners and be caught to avoid dying in the carpet bombing of Skyblade. Most of the rioting male angels believed that they had no way out and would inevitably die if they were caught, so they all rushed towards the Tianyun Palace, which was currently protected by a barrier. The Skyblade battleship also discovered this hard nut to crack, and 2 ships came and bombarded the barrier below with spears of light. In the mid-air between Tianren and the royal city below, the soldiers of the Tianren Legion were encircling and suppressing the legions under King Tianyu. In order for this suppression to be foolproof, Kesha mobilized half of the main force of the Skyblade Legion to come, part of it was used to blockade, half was used to suppress, and the remaining quarter was hidden in the periphery of the Skull Star system to prevent emergencies. King Tianyu flew into the palace from the gate and immediately found Kunming, the angel in charge of managing the palace. As soon as he saw his Wang Huayu coming back, Kunming immediately saluted and said, "King, you are finally back." Huayu directly interrupted Kunming's unspoken words and said eagerly, "Are the stargates ready? Open the stargate for me immediately. We have to leave the royal city as soon as possible. The troops of the Skyblade King will land soon. If we don't leave, we won't be able to leave." Kunming glanced behind Huayu and did not answer immediately, but said in confusion, "King, Have the angels who followed you to surround and kill the heavenly Sword King not come back yet? You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 279. Hua Yu said a little impatiently. The heavenly Sword King's strength exceeds expectations, and there is no way he can kill her in a short period of time. I have ordered them to come back secretly. Angel Kunming felt helpless when he heard this. The most taboo thing for a king is to give up halfway. If he doesn't even have the determination to complete one thing, how can he overcome the difficulties and obstacles on the road to becoming a king? But the king's order cannot be violated. As the assistant officer Kunming still followed Hua Yu's order and opened the stargate that had been established long ago. This is the fallback path left by the Skyfall King Hua Yu to prevent his rebellion from failing. As long as he passes through the stargate, he can reach the Nuda star system at the other end, which is some distance away from Skull. There is a secretly built starport there, with 3 large celestial warships that were built in advance and hidden, which are Hua Yu's reliance on escaping from the Skull Galaxy. Hua Yu wants to imitate the tactics of the female angels and rely on guerrilla warfare to gain the support of other male angels in the Angel Nebula to increase their own strength and overthrow the current angel order dominated by Merlot Heaven. The sound of sharp weapons breaking through the air echoed around Binghua without stopping for a moment. The silver feathers were combined into various shapes, either scattered or shot together, leaving the 4 old angels who besieged Binghua in a panic. On the contrary, Binghua seemed to be at ease, quietly sitting in the formation of male angel soldiers, but no male angel could get close to her, because before they could step into the 5-meter range around Binghua, they would be attacked by Xiaoqiao. Deadly silver feathers take lives as they fly. As time goes by, the strength and ability of the dark energy rampage is about to disappear. The old angels have gradually shown their fatigue. They continue to add small wounds in Binghua's casual attacks, and have to withstand Binghua's occasional attacks. Verbal attacks. Sometimes quantity may not be useful. Where is the king you are following? Could it be that he escaped secretly because he was afraid of me, leaving you here to die? During the spare time of the attack, the words that popped out from Binghua's mouth from time to time made the male angel soldiers and old angels present feel extremely aggrieved and frustrated, because even they themselves could not find Hua Yu. Or is it that from the beginning, in Hua Yu's heart, you were just abandoned children who could be discarded at will? It was as if Binghua had awakened some strange attribute. Seeing the angry faces of the old angels he was fighting but unable to vent, he felt extremely happy inside. Then you are too stupid. You abandon your subordinates and run away alone as soon as the war begins. Such a king will never succeed. Your so-called rise of male angels is just looking at the moon in the water in my eyes. It can only comfort the only remaining thing in your hearts. Just a boring ego. An old angel whose whole body exuded a faint light of dark energy was furious. He ignored the silver feathers floating like barbs around Binghua and rushed straight towards him. Binghua's eyes turned cold when he saw this, and he uttered cold words. Since you want to die, I will let you die. The silver feathers that were originally arranged neatly like soldiers in the mid-air in front of Binghua began to rapidly change their positions, forming a shape similar to a fork and piercing towards the flying old angel. The result was no surprise at all. The old angel rushed to Binghua 7 meters away and was pierced by several silver feathers and was seriously injured. But at this moment, another old angel suddenly jumped out from behind, using the broad-blade sword in his hand as the head of the spear and himself as the barrel, thrusting forward like a thrown spear. Even though Binghua had anticipated it in advance, he was still thrust within 5 meters of his body, just as the tip of the blade was about to touch Binghua. A white and slender palm was raised first and back to the blade of the stabbing sword, and the palm of the hand was turned into a knife and slammed down towards the sword body. The sword blade that stabbed at Binghua's face was slapped away by her raised hand, and the surge of air blew up the black silk hanging down to cover half of her face, revealing the delicate face that was half covered behind it. But the old angels who besieged Binghua did not have the time to appreciate the beautiful scenery blooming in that moment, because this was the last counterattack they could make. The power that surged throughout his body began to fade away quickly, and the genetic engine that was constantly converting dark energy also fell into silence. The fate of the old angels who have lost the continuous burst of dark energy to resist the strangulation of the ice and silver feathers in such a narrow hall space can be imagined. Half a minute later, Binghua stood on the red-stained floor. Not far ahead, there were 3 corpses of old angels who had lost their voices and were covered with penetrating wounds. Among them was the last one, who was half kneeling on the ground with blood dripping from wounds all over his body. An old angel. As Binghua raised his hand, the silver feathers that had originally scattered into the surrounding floor began to gradually gather, and the blade tips were pointed forward like crossbow arrows ready to go. As the last angel who survived my attack, I give you the opportunity to say your last words. The old angel raised his head slightly after hearing this, stared at Binghua not far away with his eyes that were about to close, and spoke tremblingly. The heavenly Sword King is indeed well deserved. After saying this, the old angel lowered his head again and said nothing, as if he was waiting for Binghua's final execution. Are these your last words? I hope you will not choose this path of killing in the next life. If there is an afterlife. The moment Binghua finished speaking, silver feathers shot out and penetrated the half-kneeling old angel. After doing this, the battle in the law enforcement hall was almost over. Most of the male angel soldiers who originally surrounded the law enforcement agency were frightened by the sky blades in the air and fled. The rest were beaten by Binghua, his guardian angels and law enforcement angel soldiers. They beheaded here. The reason why the battle ended so quickly was because when King Tianyu disappeared, some of his elite subordinates also disappeared. As a result, only the 5 old angels were the ones who surrounded Binghua in the end, and the rest were all second-generation or first-generation angels. After Binghua left the field, while dealing with the old angels, he deliberately killed ordinary angels. With the threat of the sky blade above his head, Hua Yu's remaining troops were soon killed and fled. While his angel warriors were cleaning up the battlefield and rescuing the wounded, Binghua walked out of the law enforcement agency and came to the gate, quietly staring at the royal city that had turned into ruins and burned with orange flames. Queen Kesha, just now the sky blade captured a space energy wave and emitted it from the Skyfall Palace on the Skull Planet. Kesha, who was lazily sitting on the throne and not playing with her fingertips and hair, turned off the live projection of the suppression operation on the Skull Star in front of her, and turned her head to look at the angel warrior who came to report. It seems Hua Yu is planning to run away. Can you find out where the space wave finally disappeared? Report to the Queen, because the space wave launched by the other party used encryption methods more than 100 years ago, and we have deciphered its final disappearance location, which is in the Nuda star system some distance away. Because I promised my friends, I will update the 10,000 word update today, and there will be more later, so please be patient. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 280. After hearing this, Kesha gave instructions without even thinking. Now that we have calculated the location, let's go and take a look. Isn't this what we are entrusted by the King of Heavenly Sword to do? Don't you think so? Kesha finally asked back with a smile, and the female angel who came to report quickly said yes. It's the Queen. I'm going to go down and notify the remaining sky blades to prepare for dispatch. Seeing her subordinates leaving in a hurry, Kesha felt bored. If Alan was here, he would talk to her more. Ordinary angels simply couldn't stand her occasional jokes. In the Nuda star system, the stargate that had been hidden for an unknown period of time was suddenly activated, and the faint blue light emitted caught the angel warriors who had been doing nothing for decades here by surprise. Hurry up, don't lie down, the king is coming, stand up and line up to greet him. Hearing this, the angel warriors who had gathered together sparsely and chatted quickly checked whether their armors were neatly dressed, and then trotted or flew to their posts to stand up. After Huayu passed through the Stargate and successfully reached the Nuda star system at the other end, his tense heart finally relaxed. Now he no longer had to worry about the troops of the Sky Sword King and the Sky Blade King chasing after him. After Huayu walked out of the Stargate, he was followed by groups of male angel warriors, and then some senior officials of Tianyu King City and their wives and daughters. Even with the angel's execution rate, this transfer operation took more than an hour to complete, and almost one-third of the residents of Tianyu King City were evacuated. Half of them were male angels who rioted in Tianyu King City. They were gathered up by Tianyu King and taken away from the royal city through the Stargate. These are the capital for him to become king in the future. Huayu's original plan was to use this established fact to tie the entire Tianyu King City residents to his chariot after assassinating the Heavenly Sword King. And he made himself famous throughout the Angel Nebula in order to attract more angels who were dissatisfied with the rule of female angels to seek refuge. But who would have thought that the King of Heavenly Sword, who came to the royal city alone, was well prepared. He secretly colluded with the King of Heavenly Sword and deployed the Heavenly Blade battleship. Not only did the assassination attempt fail, but he also escaped from the royal city in despair. Even his team failed to meet expectations. Looking at the male angel mob below who were arranging to go to various battleships, Huayu's thinking began to diverge, and at the same time he stood on a high ground a little autistic, thinking about the above-mentioned things. Just when Huayu was alone on a high platform reflecting on why he had ended up in this situation, two male angels below with silver swords hanging on their waists looked at each other. One of them walked to a remote corner and covered his head. He opened his right ear and began to use dark communication to send messages to the outside world. King, we have followed King Skyfall through the Stargate to his evacuation point. What should we do next? Oh. Are you already here? Then proceed as planned. As long as you succeed, the rewards I promise you will naturally belong to you and no one can take them away. Okay, King. After saying this, the male angel hung up the communication and walked out of the corner, paying special attention to see if no other angel had noticed him. When he came to his companions, the male angel just spoke in a low voice, "Let's take action. The king has been waiting nearby for a long time. As long as we can succeed, that thing will belong to us from now on." The two male angels looked at each other and could see the excitement in each other's eyes. Then they carefully left the team and sneaked towards Huayu's location. Because there were too many angels arriving at one time, the angels stationed in the starport were a little busy, so no angels noticed that two beings who looked like high-level angels left the team. Let's arrange it like this. Don't delay. We must complete preparations for the voyage in the shortest possible time. Huayu's tone in answering his subordinates' questions was not very good. Because of his mood, he was very anxious at the moment. Turning back to look at the two angel warriors walking up to the high platform behind him, Huayu spoke impatiently. What do you want? If you want to leave, please do it yourself. I have no time to care about you now. After Huayu finished speaking, he turned around. He didn't have a good impression of the two angels that Huayu had inserted into his team. When he evacuated before, he wished they would die in Binghua's hands, but who knew they would? He ran back to the palace with his men, and had no choice but to lead them to this evacuation point. The two male angels looked at each other, placed their palms quietly on the hilts of the swords at their waists, and approached the Skyfall King with his back to them. At the same time, they spoke words to make the other person relax their vigilance. King Tianyu, we are indeed here to say goodbye to you. Since the assassination of King Tianji failed, we have no reason to stay here. But before that, Huayu frowned and turned back and said, what happened before? At this moment, the sound of a sharp blade cutting through the air struck, and a flash of silver light reflected in Hua Yu's eyes. Hua Yu instinctively dodged back, but it was already too late. The silver blade instantly penetrated Hua Yu's chest, and he let out a scream. He was pushed to the ground by the male angel under Hua Yu's command, and another sword hit him. The incident on the high platform was quickly discovered. The king is attacked. Go and protect the king. The guard shouted, and Hua Yu's soldiers reacted and immediately flapped their wings and flew towards the high platform. But there was something faster than them, and that was the backstab from their companions. The male angel who was about to protect Hua Yu was caught off guard and was killed by a sneak attack by his companions. Nearly half of them were killed. The rest were also suspicious in mid-air to warn other angels around them, to prevent himself from dying inexplicably. Just as the male angels were tensely confronting each other, the metal wall above their heads suddenly exploded, followed by a burst of high-pitched laughter. A large group of male angels wearing silver chainmail and helmets with T-shaped notches on their faces appeared. The warrior flew into the field through the hole. All angelic people, your true king has come to lead you. Hearing this familiar voice, Hua Yu raised his head and stared at the figure that was gradually falling with its wings fluttering. Hua Yu's pupils shrank into needlepoint shapes, and at the same time he gritted his teeth and spit out two words. Hua Ye. As soon as Hua Ye appeared on the stage, he became the focus of attention of all the male angels present. He also raised his hand with great enjoyment to signal everyone to calm down. My former people, I believe you all know who I am. Yes, I am Hua Ye, the king of angels. After introducing his identity, Hua Ye didn't pay much attention to the reactions of the angels below, and flew directly in front of Hua Yu, who was controlled by his men. Tisk, tisk. Look who this is. Isn't this our majestic Skyfall king? Why has it become like this now? Hua Ye's expression was exaggerated, which made Hua Yu furious as two silver blades penetrated her body and pinned her to the ground.